I'm Dr. Jeremy Deaton. I own Deaton Veterinary Services in Cedar Bluff, Alabama. I went to veterinary school. I wanted to be a missionary overseas, and through a really long chain of events, God put me back in my hometown and put me back serving my home people, if I will, my family in Cherokee County. But over the years, as I began to learn that ministry is the workplace, it is outside of the church as we've been termed, the church proper, it's really changed my whole concept of God and how He operates through the lives of individuals. And so our practice is very unique, it's very different. It's a very integral part of our practice, and we actually have a prayer team that comes in the mornings, and they lay hands and they anoint the sick patients in the hospital for healing, and they pray scriptures over them and they pray psalms over them, and we have praise music. We blow the shofar at 6 every morning in our practice to remind the devil that the Lord is the healer and He's our Jehovah and He's our provider. And so it's been a weird concept, but it really shouldn't be a weird concept. One of the first teachings the Holy Spirit taught me in this ecclesia medical ministry was the Lord said, I want you to put your Christmas cross up, and then I want you to put lights on it. I thought, this is the craziest thing in the world. Why would you want me to do that? It's not Christmas, it's not wintertime. But I yielded to what the Holy Spirit was telling me, and so we did. All of a sudden, the Lord just comes in that moment and He says, I ask you to do that for a reason. And so I just ignored it, dismissed it. Come to find out, a week later, a person calls the clinic and wants to speak to me and said it's not about an animal. And they had really been struggling, and they had really been dealing with a lot with the Lord. They were drinking. They had decided they were going to take their own life. They were headed back home. And we practice on a straightaway of a main highway, and I guess he was reaching out to the Lord, and about the time he came around the corner, he saw the cross, and the Lord spoke to him in that moment. Another thing that we do that it's kind of unique is that we actually line item prayer as a treatment. I believe in medicine. I practice good medicine, but I also believe more strongly in the power of the Holy Spirit. I believe on the cross that Jesus' body was broken for healing, and that's for humans and animals. And so when we have a critical patient, when we have a hospital patient, we will actually go in there, and the treatment item says intercessory prayer by doctors, elders, or church staff. So if your animal is prayed over when you're in our practice, you actually see that right under the surgery or whatever treatment that was done. And even the practice board has come at me about that. And we don't charge for it, so it's not like we're charging for this service. We have seen countless time over and over and over again where the client comes in and they ask about that, or their animal's healed, and we're able to go back and say, well, that's where the healing happened. It was through prayer where it was happened. It's documented in the medical record. This past week we were speaking to a client, just practicing real faith, and the dog had a really large nasal tumor about the size of an orange coming out of his nose. The husband was on hospice. He has cancer. He's dying. The dog was dying. They have no children. It's just a very, very tragic situation in the natural. And the Holy Spirit said, well, just tell the lady to speak to that tumor and tell it to fall off. And they got up the next morning, the tumor's gone. And so it was an opportunity. It had nothing to do with me, of course, but it had an opportunity for the Holy Spirit, for Jesus to get all the credit in that situation. And the husband who's dying and who's terminally ill with cancer was able to see an actual miracle performed in the house through the working of the Holy Spirit. And so it's these little things, it's these little moments in workplace ministry where God receives the glory that He's due. We had a high school student who works for us, who is a young believer. She's Spirit-filled, and she said, Mr. Jeremy, I want to be able to bless clients, but I really don't want to talk to them. And I get that. Sometimes people can be a little bit overwhelming, or they can be a little bit offensive. And so she came up with this idea to place cards or notes from Jesus in their bags when they leave. So if they're picking up medicine, if they're picking up discharge papers, whatever the case may be, she came up and she prayed with some ideas for that. If Jesus was going to speak to this client, what would He say? It's not confrontational. They're actually on these little index cards. They're like half of an index card in size. And so it's non-confrontational. We slip it in the bag. They don't even know it's in the bag till they get home. Time and time again, we're seeing clients call us back because when they got home, the thing that they had been praying for, the thing that they'd been dealing with, the thing that they'd been asking God for, came in the form of a message in a bag from a vet clinic. And that's the whole concept of ecclesia, is being able to speak Jesus to people, allowing Jesus to speak through our ministry model at the office. And I've had clients call back that drive from Birmingham. We have a huge client base, over 24,000 people. And so we're able to reach 24,000 people a year with these cards and with just the actions in the ministry model. And they would call. I had one lady call a couple of months ago, and she said, I had an issue, and so it went through the proper chain, and it finally got to me. And the issue was that she received the same note from Jesus the time before when she came and said, "Is that all that he has to say to me?" And so that really spoke to me. And so now we have a whole set of different things, and I asked the Lord really quickly in between rooms, which model or which card do they need? And so I just want to read this one, because this one has had a great impact on so many people. And this is what's in their bag when they go home. They just pull it out and like, what's this? It says, "You have a purpose in this life. You're cared for and you're cared about. The world would not be the same without you. You are wanted and you're needed here. You are loved and appreciated. Don't give up. Keep pushing forward and know that you've got this. I loved you enough to give my life for you, and I want to be part of your life." And it's signed Jesus. What a simple concept that was the Holy Spirit, and to live out the Ecclesia workplace ministry model.